This is In the Loop. I'm Christian Bryant. We are a year older, a year wiser, but we still haven't figured out a better way to prop me up instead of using this Apple box. Here's what we got for y'all. Tonight, life in Afghanistan after US troop withdrawals. What does the country's future hold for girls and women seeking education? Plus, the US might be turning the corner on the pandemic, but psychological impacts are hanging around. We'll keep mental health top of mind. But first, here's what you need to know right now. In a landmark ruling, a Dutch court says Royal Dutch Shell, or just Shell as we know it, is at least partially responsible for global climate change. The court ordered Shell to cut its carbon emissions by 45% by 2030 compared to 2019 levels. A group of environmental and human rights organizations led the civil lawsuit against the oil and gas company. Shell plans to appeal the ruling, but the move could set a precedent for other countries to follow. It comes as the world's largest companies face increasing pressure to set short and long-term goals to reduce emissions and help avoid a climate crisis. Shell argued it already set net zero emissions goals, but the court said the policy was not concrete and had too many caveats. Climate activists are celebrating the win, noting it's the first time a judge ordered a large company to comply with the Paris Climate Agreement. It looks like the legal fate of former President Donald Trump will end up in the hands of a grand jury. The Manhattan District Attorney has been investigating the business dealings of the Trump Organization for more than 2 years, looking into hush money payments, property valuations, and tax records. This week, New York prosecutors convened a special grand jury to consider the evidence. The latest move is a sign of the increasing momentum into the probes against Trump. Just last week, the New York Attorney General also announced her civil investigation into Trump had evolved into a criminal probe. According to the Washington Post, the grand jury will meet 3 times a week for 6 months to hear all of the findings and decide whether there's enough evidence to actually indict Trump and maybe others tied to the organization. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention plans to stop tracking mild cases of COVID-19 among fully vaccinated people, citing low risk of severe symptoms. Here's what we learned about the 10,000 or so cases of fully vaccinated people they did track through the end of April. Genomic sequencing could only be done on 555 cases, but more than half of those involved variants the CDC's been concerned about. That tells us the variants are most definitely circulating, but also that the vaccines are working. Just take a look at the numbers among the cases studied. Roughly a quarter of the breakthrough cases had no symptoms at all. 955 people were hospitalized, but a third of them were for reasons unrelated to COVID-19. 160 people died, which is about 2%. Keep in mind, more than 131 million people in the US have been fully vaccinated. The CDC says it will still investigate breakthrough cases of COVID-19 that led to hospitalizations. Military officials say US troops could be out of Afghanistan by mid-July, according to the New York Times. But one major concern regarding the withdrawal is the resurgence of the Taliban and how it'll impact civilians. Newsy's Meg Hilling tells us about how the progress made in educating girls and women in the country could be erased if the terrorist group regains control.
Women's activist Hosha Mubarez tells Newsy the future of women in Afghanistan is very worrying. Less than a month ago, a series of bombs appeared to deliberately target girls at a high school in Kabul, Afghanistan's capital city. This attack has prompted serious concerns about the future of education among women in the country as U.S. troops withdraw and peace talks falter between the country's government and the Taliban. Our students are apprehensive, a high school administrator tells us. The government should not ignore women's rights when negotiating with the Taliban. Prior to its removal from power by U.S. troops in 2001, the Taliban banned girls from receiving a formal education in the country. Speaking with Newsy, students, educators, and activists say they're concerned that a return to power for the Taliban will result in those bans being renewed. My concern is that people say the Taliban are coming back. This high schooler fears her education will not continue. According to a recent New York Times report, the Taliban has already begun imposing education limits for girls in parts of the country under its control. This has reportedly come in the form of school closures, firing of teachers, and orders for older girls to remain at home. Hosha Mubarak worries that if the Taliban keep young girls from school, they'll also keep adult women from going to work and university. The Taliban has denied responsibility and condemned the recent bombings outside the high school that left roughly 90 people dead, many of them female students. "We lost our classmates and friends," she says. "We call upon our government to hear our voice and help us. We are tired of this situation." But not everyone believes a return to power for the Taliban means girls will be barred from receiving an education. "It is not correct for people to say the Taliban are against women's education," says a member of the Ministry of Hajj and Religious Affairs. "They want to bring some reforms and regulations according to Sharia law," he says. As the country awaits talks between the Taliban and Afghan government, many say they're not prepared to give up any of the progress the country has made inside the classroom, regardless of what changes the Taliban may have in mind. High schooler Zahra says, "We will never give up going to school." For Newsy, I'm Meg Hilling.
When you're back, we'll tell you about the growing chorus of voices who wouldn't mind seeing the Tokyo Olympics canceled. The motto for the Tokyo Olympics is United by Emotion. They didn't specify which emotion exactly, and we're learning it could be disapproval. Here's what's trending. We're 2 months away from the start of the Tokyo Olympics, and a good number of folks involved are saying, "I don't know about this," including a major Japanese newspaper. Asahi Shimbun, a sponsor of the games, called for the Tokyo Olympics to be straight up canceled. In a statement, the paper said it isn't rational to move ahead on hosting the games, and that distrust and backlash are growing against the government and other organizing parties. Japan hasn't exactly gotten its COVID situation sorted. 80% of all COVID deaths in Japan have happened since December. Less than 3% of the population has been fully vaccinated, and several regions, including Tokyo, have been under a state of emergency. In polling, most Japanese folks don't want the games to go forward, but the IOC is undeterred. They said they don't plan to cancel or postpone the games again, and the IOC vice president has said the games can be held even if Tokyo is under a state of emergency, which can only mean they've purchased bubbles for everybody. AMC is trending, which means you should probably hit up your stonks-obsessed friends and just do a vibe check. Shares of AMC Entertainment and GameStop surged Wednesday as retail investors pushed the stocks on, you guessed it, Reddit's Wall Street Bets, and on social media using hashtags like AMC, AMC Strong, and AMC 500K. AMC Entertainment has seen an increase of 60% this week, while GameStop has risen to more than 35%. While the legion of small-time investors known as the AMC Ape Army, along with other retail investors, are riding high off the gains, short sellers who have bet against these companies have taken some losses. A financial analytics firm estimated a loss of $750 million on Tuesday alone. BlackBerry and Bed Bath & Beyond, other so-called meme stocks, also traded more than 10% higher Wednesday. With news of Amazon's purchase of MGM Studios becoming officially official Wednesday, many James Bond fans focused their attention on the future of the franchise. You see, MGM is the studio behind James Bond. The purchase gives Amazon, which owns the streaming service Amazon Prime, access to that library and control over where the intellectual property goes next. Naturally, fans online had a lot of questions about No Time to Die, the already delayed next installment, and whether that could move to a streaming or hybrid release. Of course, reactions online were mixed, with some people thinking up new scenes for the movie, or just expressing their disapproval of anything but an exclusively theatrical release. For the record, No Time to Die is still set to be released somewhere this fall, September 30th for UK audiences and October 8th for folks in the States. I always thought hashtag Team No Sleep and quotes like "I'll sleep when I'm dead" were a little odd because your body don't really function without sleep. And experts say there's a big difference between a few weeks of poor sleep and chronic insomnia. As part of Mental Health Awareness Month, our Breakthrough series aims to tackle some tough questions about topics like how the pandemic and associated impacts may be taking a toll on your sleep. Newsy's Lindsay Fee spoke to experts who tell us when we should seek medical help.
A Harvard Dream researcher found that dreams, very intense ones linked to anxiety and negative emotions, have been up during the pandemic. No surprise there, right? But when do things like nightmares and how poor we're sleeping start to become a mental health problem?
If we have poor sleep quality and we effectively only get 4 or 5 hours of sleep on a given night, we're going to know that we feel poorly.
Dreams are a way that our brain processes our experiences, our thoughts, and our emotions in a way that removes ourselves from them emotionally. And it's almost like a form of storytelling.
Nightmares and even night terrors are relatively common in younger kids, sort of preschool and early elementary age kids. They become a little bit less common as kids get older. So if we're talking about a middle school or high schooler, then probably want to attend to that.
We all need sleep, and missing out on it can be truly upsetting.
Look at the cycles under my eyes. I haven't slept in weeks.
But experts say there's a difference between acute insomnia, which lasts from one night to a few weeks, and something chronic, lasting much longer.
So if you're noticing that there's a period of poor quality sleep that's starting to go for more on the order of several months, then that may be something that rises to the level of being a chronic sleep disorder. And you probably do want to bring it up with your physician and talk about it to kind of see what the possibilities are that might explain it.
Chronic insomnia is a precursor for depression, so checking with a doctor who knows behavioral sleep medicine could help. There's also a chance it could be linked to something else.
Could there be another sleep disorder, such as sleep apnea or something else for that matter? There are over 90 different sleep disorders, it turns out.
Lindsay Thies, Newsy, San Francisco.
Would you believe me if I said I've actually napped in here? I mean, it's dark and quiet and nobody's around to tell me no, so... As vaccinations slow down across the country, many experts worry the nation will not reach herd immunity. That's the pandemic-era buzzword that indicates enough people are immune to a disease to make its spread unlikely. But expert opinion on the unlikeliness of herd immunity isn't stopping some communities from still tracking it. National reporter Alexi Liako tells us about one city that's doing that in a unique way.
As soon as the sun is up, Brian Savato is out on a mission.
Take the cover.
He's collecting human wastewater. Yeah, you heard that right. These sewage samples will help track herd immunity in his community. You're probably thinking, what? And wondering how? Well, researchers at the University of Louisville are testing both wastewater and people. It's called the Co-Immunity Project. Pieces of the COVID-19 virus come out when you use the bathroom, so researchers can track where the virus exists in communities by sampling wastewater from different neighborhoods. Then they'll take a blood sample and nasal swab from community members across the city. That can show who's vaccinated and who isn't. Together, researchers can see which neighborhoods are vaccinated and which have infections. They put those together to calculate herd immunity.
We're trying to get to a place where enough people are vaccinated where there'll be no place for the virus to go. And so we call that herd immunity. And the only way we'll know when we're there is when the virus essentially disappears.
Do you think herd immunity is possible?
I personally think it is possible, and I think that we're capable of getting there.
Ted Smith and Aruni Bhatnagar are the researchers behind the effort. They're doing all of this
so that we can then tailor a better public health response.
They're hoping the data will show where in the city people aren't getting shots.
Areas which we call vaccine deserts.
Then they can work with local leaders to get those communities better access and education around vaccines.
Health is not an individual entity, but a community activity. And if our community is unhealthy, we cannot be healthy.
They hope their data will help with more than just finding the communities where people are hesitant to get vaccinated. They hope documenting immunity levels will enable life getting back to normal.
That makes more sense. It's been a constant challenge.
Chad Cooley owns Mama's Barbecue and says the closer Louisville gets to herd immunity, the sooner more people can get back to enjoying moments like these.
Smart people are getting vaccinated, and some others are still waiting to join us. But hopefully we'll get there. Hopefully we'll get there soon, because we have the shots. They're available. People just need to go get them.
We're trying to help our community by using good science.
Because information, even from a stinky source, can bring the sweet reward of togetherness we're all craving.
Now we are at the end game. If anybody gets left out, we're not going to win this game.
I'm Alexa Liacco reporting.
Older teens in foster care have faced a lot of challenges during the pandemic, but new help from Congress aims at doing something a bit unique for children who would usually age out of programs and the help that states provide. Reporter Elizabeth Ruiz shows us how.
Thank God, I'm here now, and I got an opportunity to live again.
John Miklas counts his blessings every day. A few months ago, a COVID diagnosis had him at death's door.
When I relive all this, it gets emotional. So I ask him, what should I do? Is there anything I could do? And the doctor's recommendation there was to get my affairs in order, which I did.
His lungs were severely damaged from the disease, but the La Plata man's wife wasn't ready to give up or give in. She reached out to University of Maryland Medicine to find out about their lung transplant program.
There is the opportunity, if you have your lungs as the only organ that's destroyed from COVID, that we can replace them and, essentially save your life.
Dr. Alexander Krupnik and his team from the University of Maryland Medical Center performed successful lung transplants on Miklas and another man.
I was diagnosed with COVID-19. I thought I was in deep trouble.
Anthony's case was more complicated because he already has an underlying condition that put him at a greater risk.
His lungs were so bad that essentially they couldn't provide the oxygen and remove the carbon dioxide. So he had to go essentially in an artificial lung to support him while waiting for a lung transplant.
Within days on the waiting list, both men were matched with donors earlier this year.
So there's no word to say how thankful I am and grateful for the opportunity to live a little longer than he did. So I really tell him I appreciate what he did for me.
I was lucky enough to get a match that they thought was suitable for me within a few days. And from that point on, they did the surgery, and turned out, surgery went well.
Their road to recovery will involve many more hospital visits.
We're seeing our patients very regularly, literally weekly for the first couple of months and every month. So they're tied to coming back to us picking up any problems, whether it's infection or rejection.
While Dr. Krupnik is thrilled with the success of Anthony and John's transplants, he's concerned about what the future holds for other COVID survivors who didn't have the same option.
We anticipate that about 10 years from now, there are going to be a lot of people that have had some damage. They've recovered their damage, but the scarring is going to progress and essentially require them to have a lung transplant in 10 years.
John was discharged from the hospital March 30th. He's taking his second chance one day at a time, and he one day hopes to meet his donor's family.
I will write them a letter soon to thank them for their family member being a donor and let them know how appreciated I am. It's physically, emotionally draining, but it's an opportunity to live again.
If you haven't done so already, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter using the hashtag NewsyInTheLoop. We want to hear from you about how we can improve the show. Any face or teeth related suggestions, and I will call the authorities.
We take a step away from the noise and spin to really hear the stories that need to be told. Newsy cuts through.
As parts of the world gradually reopen, air travel is picking up. The Federal Aviation Administration held a town hall Wednesday to answer questions about masks and other flying requirements. While many cities have dropped mask mandates, they are still required in the air, but not everyone wants to follow the rules. Because of this, some flight attendants are rethinking their careers. National reporter Dan Grossman has more.
Being a flight attendant isn't a job. It's a way of life. It's a lifestyle.
For 5 years, despondence was never a word Mitra Amirzadeh has associated with her career.
I was shiny and brand new, so the whole world was beautiful.
But over the course of the last one, as a flight attendant for one of our nation's major airlines, that has changed.
I would say that I definitely saw the glasses being more 3/4 full, not even half full, just 3/4 full. And nowadays, I think I see it more for what it really is.
Exhausting, unfamiliar, demoralizing.
I mean, one guy was punched in the head that I know. Who does that? Who just walks up and hits somebody and walks off? But it happened to him, so.
In a typical year, the FAA says it sees between 100 and 150 formal cases of unruly passenger behavior. In the first 5 months of this year, the agency says it has received more than 1,300 reported cases.
I've heard from a lot of my flying partners who have said this isn't the job that they remember. They don't recognize it. And they can't take it anymore.
As the international president of the Association of Flight Attendants, Sarah Nelson has heard more cases of these cases leading to that despondence as well.
Even though we've had so many more incidents of unruly passengers, I believe that we would have a lot more people getting hurt and a lot bigger problems if we didn't have that clear instruction from leadership.
Sarah's talking about the CDC and says most of the incidents she sees revolve around the masks they have mandated on flights, a simple requirement that has led to a flare in tensions and combatants. The FAA says of those 1,300 cases it is still reviewing, it has identified potential violations in at least 260 cases and has taken legal action, which can include criminal charges in more than 20.
And then it's been this constant toll of an undercurrent of turmoil and conflict. And it's not the job that we know. And many people have said they just can't do it anymore. They can't. It's not who they are. It's not what they signed up for.
The FAA has announced it is now taking a zero-tolerance approach to this behavior. Potential criminal charges, fines up to $35,000 per incident, and potential lifetime bans on certain airlines.
So we become the punching bag. We're the bad guy. We're the face of the rule.
These flight attendants would more than appreciate if we could all comply, so the flight is smoother and their passion for this career remains intact.
And we have to de-escalate these issues because conflict gives rise to violence, and that can put everyone in jeopardy.
I'm Dan Grossman.
That's it for us, gang. As always, thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more in the loop. Same time, same place. Top stories from Newsy are headed your way right now.